I stood frozen in my husband's apartment, my eyes locked on a photograph that shouldn't exist. Ryan, my husband, stood there, grinning in a black tuxedo, his arm draped over a woman in a white wedding dress. But that woman wasn't me. My hands trembled as I picked up the frame, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Beside the photo were documents, official legal-looking papers. I unfolded them with shaky fingers, and my heart sank. A marriage certificate. My husband's name was on it, clear as day, but the bride was someone named Jessica. My mind raced as I reread the names. Ryan and Jessica. But this couldn't be possible, could it? I had known Ryan for years, married him 2 years ago, and yet here was undeniable proof that he was living another life. A life that didn't include me. How had I missed this? 2 years ago, I thought I had found the love of my life. Ryan had been everything I ever wanted in a partner. He was caring, attentive, and kind. Our wedding had been beautiful, intimate, and filled with laughter and promises of forever. After we married, we spent every moment together, completely inseparable. But about 6 months into our marriage, Ryan got a job offer that changed everything. He was transferred to a different city for work, and while it was only a few hours away, I couldn't leave my job to go with him. I had just been promoted to manager at my company, something I had worked hard for. We agreed to maintain a long-distance marriage for a while, and at the time, it seemed like the right choice. Now, standing in this apartment, I wondered if that had been his plan all along. Ryan's relocation seemed to work well at first. He would visit me on weekends, always bringing flowers and gifts, telling me how much he missed me. I missed him too, but the distance didn't seem unbearable. We called each other every night, and he always reassured me with sweet words like, "Even if we're apart, my love for you will never change." I believed him. I thought we were managing the distance better than most couples could. But slowly, things started to feel off. Sometimes he would cancel his weekend visits, claiming he was swamped with work. He'd apologize profusely, telling me how guilty he felt, and I always let it slide. After all, I knew he was busy. But now, looking at that wedding photo, it became clear. Those canceled weekends weren't because of work. They were because of her, Jessica. The night before Ryan's birthday, I decided to surprise him. He had told me not to come, saying he had a huge work assignment that would keep him up late, but I wanted to see him. I wanted to do something special for him. So I took the day off and packed a bag full of groceries to make him his favorite meal. I had even bought him a new shirt from his favorite brand as a birthday gift. I pictured his face lighting up with joy when he saw me at his door. But as I approached his apartment, something felt wrong. The closer I got, the more anxious I became. Why had he been so adamant about me not coming? Brushing off the unease, I unlocked the door with the spare key he had given me months ago. What I found inside was nothing short of a nightmare. As I stepped inside, the air felt heavy. The decor was completely different from what I expected. The pink curtains, heart-shaped pillows, and feminine touches around the apartment didn't belong to Ryan. They couldn't. It was as if I had stepped into someone else's life. My pulse quickened as I wandered further in, calling Ryan's name, but hearing nothing in response. Then, my eyes landed on the shelf near the window, and there it was, the photograph of Ryan and Jessica in their wedding attire, laughing, happy, and completely oblivious to the destruction their secret life would cause. The betrayal hit me like a truck. I couldn't breathe. I collapsed onto the floor, my knees giving out as my world crumbled around me. How long had this been going on? How could I have been so blind? While I sat there, paralyzed by shock, I heard voices approaching from the hallway. I panicked. I couldn't face them. At least not yet. I didn't even know who them was. In a desperate move, I grabbed my bag and hid in the closet, barely managing to pull the door shut before the apartment door opened. My heart pounded so hard I was sure they would hear it. Through the slats in the closet door, I watched as Ryan walked in, laughing and chatting with a woman who followed closely behind. Jessica. She looked even more radiant in person than in the photo. She handed him a gift, and my stomach churned as I realized it was a shirt, the same brand I had bought for him. The room felt suffocating as they made themselves comfortable, completely unaware of the bomb about to drop. They sat on the couch, their legs intertwined, sharing a moment that should have been ours. I wanted to scream, to burst out of the closet and demand answers, but my body wouldn't move. Then they started talking, and what I heard shattered me further. "I can't believe how smooth everything is going," Jessica said, her voice low. "I was worried at first, but conspiring with your wife's mother? Genius." My heart stopped. My mother? What was she talking about? Ryan laughed and kissed her on the cheek. "Yeah, she has no idea. Lauren's been so busy with work, she never even suspected a thing." My mind was racing. This wasn't just about Ryan cheating with another woman. This was something far more twisted. I fought to keep my breathing steady as they continued their conversation, completely unaware that I was listening to every word. Jessica mentioned a plan, something about debts and settlements, and Ryan seemed to agree with everything she said. I could hardly comprehend what I was hearing. They had been plotting together, against me, and my mother was somehow involved. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. I needed proof. I started recording, capturing every word of their disgusting conversation. They spoke so casually about betraying me, as if I were nothing more than an obstacle in their way. "Lauren's so gullible," Ryan said with a chuckle. "She still thinks I'm working overtime." Jessica laughed too. "Good thing she never comes out here. She'd ruin everything." I had heard enough. My mind was made up. This wasn't just infidelity. This was betrayal on a level I couldn't have imagined. As I sat there, trembling with anger and disbelief, I sent the recording to my father, along with the words, "Come now." I'm at Ryan's. My father had always been calm, rational, the kind of person who never let emotions cloud his judgment. But I knew that when he heard this, everything would change. I waited in the closet, listening as they continued to talk and laugh, completely oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. When I heard the faint knock on the door, I took a deep breath. It was time to end this. With a newfound sense of purpose, I pushed open the closet door, startling them both. "Happy birthday, Ryan," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm as I tossed the shirt I had bought him at their feet. They jumped, their faces twisting in shock and confusion. Jessica scrambled to cover herself, while Ryan stood there, stammering, trying to find words. Lauren, this isn't what it looks like," he stuttered. I let out a bitter laugh. "Isn't it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what it is. My husband with another woman, in our apartment." Ryan opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, my father stepped into the room. The moment my father saw the two of them, his face turned to stone. I had never seen him so angry. "Explain yourselves," he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Ryan and Jessica were frozen, their mouths hanging open as if they were trying to come up with excuses, but nothing came out. My father's presence was like a dam breaking. Everything I had been holding in, the hurt, the betrayal, the anger, it all came flooding out. "They've been plotting behind my back," I said, my voice shaking. "And my mother is involved. They've been planning this for months." My father's eyes darkened. He turned to Ryan. "You've got some nerve, boy," he said, his voice trembling with rage. "After everything we've done for you." Ryan tried to speak, but my father cut him off. "No more lies. You're going to sign the divorce papers, and you're going to do it now." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the documents, slamming them onto the table. "Both of you," he said, looking at Jessica as well. "It's over." Ryan hesitated for a moment, glancing at Jessica, but the look on my father's face left no room for negotiation. With shaky hands, he picked up the pen and signed his name. Jessica followed, her face pale and expressionless. I stood there, watching as they sealed their own fate. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel relief. All I felt was numb. As soon as the papers were signed, my father turned to me. "Let's go," he said quietly. I nodded, unable to speak, and followed him out the door, leaving Ryan and Jessica behind. The air outside felt cool against my skin, but I was still shaking. My father put his arm around me, pulling me close. "You did the right thing," he said softly. "You don't need people like that in your life." I nodded again, still trying to process everything that had just happened. My husband, the man I had loved and trusted, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. And my mother, how could she have been part of this? The pain was overwhelming, but as I walked away from that apartment, I knew one thing for certain: I would never let them break me.